What's up, YouTube? I take it you can hear me. Testing 1, 2.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is today, June 21st, 2016. Thanks for joining us. Folks, I have to admit, I am just a little bit out of it today. Okay, just checking. Got to keep checking in on my little boy. My little boy is sick, and I just found out he was sick like 10 minutes before the show. So I'm going to be watching my phone in and out of the show. So anyway, thank you for joining us. It is a beautiful day here in Boston. I mean, I was walking to the studio and I'm like, I don't know of any other place that is this beautiful. Actually, I do. Cleveland is pretty beautiful this time of year. The North is just a beautiful place in this time of year. So it was a good day. I'll tell you about my day. I really do want to fill you in on like how my morning started at 5 this morning, but I'll fill you in as we go. There are a lot of things to cover in the news. Sorry for dilly-dallying around. We'll get to the news. Just a little distracted here, but we're good. 857-600-0518 for you to join the conversation. I definitely want to thank all of our patrons at the top of the show. It's like I close my eyes and then go back and take a look at it, and there are some new patrons. Damon B just made a pledge this afternoon. Thank you, Damon. Casey G, thank you so much for being a patron. And Joseph J, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Again, I like to do it at the top of the show because you guys know once I get into the show, there's a very good chance it'll be 10 o'clock before I realize I hadn't thanked the patrons. And so we can't do this without you. Again, starting next week, we'll be doing bonus shows after the main show. And this is really just a way for me to thank all of the patrons for what you do, so it will probably be an extra 15 to 30 minutes for all of our patrons, just to say thanks. And you can get access to that if you want. You can become a patron for like $1. We're not asking for $25 a month or $100 a month, but if you feel like contributing that much, please do. All right, I'm going to need your help tonight. Join the conversation, 857-600-0518. I want to start with Donald Trump's campaign finances. Interesting report came out. So let me start here. My brain goes through several iterations of thinking before I make up my mind on something. And so last night, I think it was late in the evening when we saw the campaign finance report for Donald Trump, and you saw that he only had like $1.3 million on cash on hand, and you saw how much money he was spending. And then you saw, I don't know if you're on social media, but you would have seen a lot of people, Democrats and liberals in particular, mocking Donald Trump for not having a lot of money in his campaign. My first instinct was to push back on this. My first instinct is it should be a good thing for a person to be able to run a campaign without the need of a lot of money from corporate donors. The bad news for me is that in this case, it's Donald Trump, a fascist Republican, right? So because he's a Republican and we must oppose all things Republican, then somehow we're supposed to find a negative narrative for the fact that Donald Trump only had $1.3 million worth of cash on hand. I can't do it. To me, that's a good thing. Then I started looking at how he was spending the money that he had on hand. And then my first gut reaction was, this is insane. Donald Trump is paying himself and his organizations and his family millions of dollars. Well, over $1 million in the last quarter, according to his FEC filings. And so my initial reaction was, hell, joke's on us, right? Everyone's running around with the hashtag Trump so poor. In actuality, Trump is doing quite fine. Trump is paying himself back. Well, that's coming next. I hadn't thought about the fact that he's paid himself back, but at first it was like he's taking all these campaign contributions and he's getting rich off of it, while everyone's laughing at the part that he only has $1.3 million in cash on hand. All right, so the third iteration of my thought process came when I actually looked up his filings so far from OpenSecrets.org and saw that he has self-contributed over $45 million. And essentially at this point, he's paying you. It could be described as paying himself back. Right. He's made a loan to himself of $45 million. And so he's paying himself back. So I have kind of a moral dilemma here, right? Because Donald Trump, who is someone I would never support just on GP, right? Just not because he's a Republican, but just on GP. He's Donald Trump, right? And two, he's a caricature of a human being, right? And he represents some of the worst parts and the dredges of our society. So I have no interest whatsoever of ever saying a positive thing about Donald Trump, because he is, to me, I don't want to see him in the White House. However, Donald Trump is running a nationwide campaign on a shoestring budget on money that he loaned himself, and now he's paying himself back. I don't know if people realize the strength of that narrative, if he even comes close. Like, at this point, Hillary Clinton is going to have to blow him the hell out of the water for this narrative not to take hold. That Donald Trump, and the narrative I'm talking about is a businessman's presidential campaign, right? He's leveraging free media, which any smart person would do, right? He made himself a loan. He's raising money now, and the money he's raising, he's paying himself back for. And he has just a little bit of money on hand that he mainly spends on merchandise and travel, not on media. And Democrats are running around laughing about this as if, ha, 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 Donald Trump, the joke's on you. In reality, ha, 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 the joke's on us. Because wasn't there a time, there used to be a time just before this primary season where Democrats were fighting back against Citizens United and making the case to get money out of politics. And here is Donald Trump not able to raise a whole lot of money from corporate sponsors because he's an asshole. Right? Let's just put it there. He can't raise money because he's a dick, but he's still running a nationwide campaign on a fraction of what Hillary Clinton is running. And just a few months ago, this would be something that Democrats would say, how can we do this and get money out of politics? But instead, now that Donald Trump is doing it, Democrats are like, ha, 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 Donald Trump's so poor. Goes right back to what I was talking about yesterday about how we will take anything that we feel will give us a political advantage and give us the ability to attack our political rivals. We will take it and flip it, even though it goes contrary to what we believe and what we've been fighting for a long time. And that is tremendously problematic. Let's go to the caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, it's John from Mississippi.
John, Mississippi, 601 is in the house. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, to the argument that Trump's, campaign is not, running a lot of ads or spending money or has money or whatever is all, fine, well, and good. But would we have gotten to this point where Trump can run a campaign sheerly on media if we had taken the steps when necessary? And part of that was just because Citizens United kicked us bit us in the ass about it. But would he be so successful if we had campaign finance reform starting in 2008 or 2004 going to this point? I don't think it would be quite the thing that it is. I think we would have more substantial candidates get further, and Donald Trump wouldn't have just run away with the nomination like he did.
I get what you're saying, and I just put a graphic up on our screen, and I see what you're arguing that. Hang on, let me pull this off the screen. You're arguing that from the position that if we had stronger campaign finance reform, stronger candidates would have come out sooner, and not given Donald Trump the chance to win. And so,
not only that,
yeah, go ahead.
But that the structure would have developed by now. Does that make sense? Like, we wouldn't have gotten to this point where nobody has any money, enough money to compete except for Hillary Clinton and
a millionaire and a billionaire,
Jeb Bush, and Trump just comes in and knocks it all over. Instead, you would have had better candidates than Bush and Clinton.
Yeah,
be further out in front.
Well, yeah. I mean, so it's kind of a two-edged sword with this, right? Yeah. Thanks for the call, man. It's a two-edged sword in that Donald Trump, if we had better finance, could other people have got? It depends on what that better campaign finance reform actually looks like. But let's say that it leveled the playing field and allowed people who didn't have the capacity to raise tens of millions, and then hundreds of millions of dollars to actually get in the campaign. Could they have competed against somebody like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? Better candidates would have come out, very possibly, right? But Donald Trump is not really the beneficiary of fundraising from corporate donors. Not according to opensecrets.org, right? So if you're looking at this graphic on our screen, it's a little small. I might blow it up later on, but he's raised $59.9 million. 96% of that has been campaign donations, and the lion's share of it has been $45 million of his self-finance. Only 4% of this has come from super PACs, and this is from opensecrets.org. If you Google, and actually it's a new deal, right? I haven't seen it. This if you Google Donald Trump campaign finance, you'll get a great summary from Google and opensecrets.org. And so based on that, he put in the lion's share of the money. He's paying himself back. I mean, at first, I'm like, the joke's on us, because all the money that he's raising now, he's spending back on his businesses. But this is $45 million of his own money. He's creating this narrative that is uber beneficial for billionaires to run for office. Get free media. I mean, because he has been the beneficiary of tremendous amounts of free media, right? No one can deny that. But that's not just because. That's because he went out there and worked the system, right? He worked the hell out of our media networks, and our media networks are desperate. I'm trying to use the cleanest language I can, right? They're desperate for ratings. And so anytime they talked about somebody as asinine as Donald Trump, it gave them great ratings. Therefore, it gave Donald Trump free publicity. Trump knew this, and Trump ran away with this. And so now he's in a position where he's able to run this streamlined campaign. And I'm taken aback by the fact that now the Democrats are on the opposite side of the equation, making jokes about the fact that Donald Trump is not raising obscene amounts of money. When in fact, we should be like, dang, he actually managed to do this without raising obscene amounts of money. And not, he self-financed, right? But it even goes back to Bernie Sanders, right? So with Bernie Sanders, he was able to do it on small donor amounts. and because of the need to be in the political opposition, right? You have to have something to oppose and contrast yourself with your political rival. All of a sudden, the Democratic establishment became the party of big donors. I think that's ultimately what I'm building up to here, is that the Democratic Party has become the party of big campaign contributions, bundlers, lobbyists raising obscene amounts of money from uber rich people. And here you had Donald Trump, self-financed for the most part, raising money, paying himself back, and Bernie Sanders raising small dollar amounts. And here we are. The Democratic Party now is laughing. I think they were floating around last night and this morning. I think they came up with what they want to use, right? Last night they floated around poor Donald as the way that they're going to label Donald Trump, because they've fallen into the trope, not the trope, they've fallen into the fell clutches of Donald Trump's narrative, right? Donald Trump labels people tiny Marco or little Marco, or lying Hillary or lying Ted or whatever, dishonest Hillary, whatever. That's Donald Trump's stick. And Hillary Clinton's team has to follow suit. So they've been juggling names over the last 24 hours of what are we going to call Donald Trump? Last night it was poor Donald. This morning or this afternoon, it looks like they're going to go with deadbeat Donald. I don't know. I'm just not of the opinion that we should be opposing the fact that Trump is managing to pull off this campaign without having huge amounts of money raised from corporate donors. Now, there is the huge caveat that the reason he can't raise this money is because he is an asshole and he is a proto-fascist, right? That all of this is true, but we should not undermine this position that we need to get money out of politics. And instead of, and not only are we undermining it, but we're running headlong in the opposite direction because we feel that it is giving us a political advantage for us to oppose and defeat Trump with this narrative. You got to be careful of everything that looks like an opportunity isn't. Sometimes you betray yourself. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, Benjamin. This is Lee from Ohio. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Lee. How's it going for you?
Fantastic. So, quick question, statement question. So we have a bunch of people that are disenfranchised on both sides of the party.
Yep.
A lot of people that are, and that's what I think Trump is appealing to on his side as well as Bernie on our side. And we have two candidates that are really playing the fear card on this with both Hillary and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a way to appeal to those disenfranchised voters or citizens on the right side and actually bring them over to the progressive side?
You know, that's the big question, man. That's a big question that a lot of people have been asking for much of the, thanks for the call. Much of this election, we've been asking, can, like Bernie Sanders, appeal to the disenfranchised voter on the right? And I will say the short answer is probably not, because the big difference between the populists on the right is that the populists on the right have been willing to betray their own best economic interests for the ability to identify with a party that blames and lays the burden of the problems in America at the feet of marginalized groups. Simply put, you know, they can blame black people, right? They can blame Mexicans. They can blame immigrants. They can blame Islam. They can blame everybody. And from a nationalistic and almost a racist perspective, without ever looking at the system around them, including the Republican Party, that's causing the bulk of their problems. And Bernie Sanders actually said this himself. He said he'd be more than happy to welcome them over into his coalition, but they have to stop blaming. They have to leave that part of their ideology with the Republican Party. And I don't think that's something they can do. But back to the point of Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, I just think that the Democratic Party is too malleable too willing to shift gears. And as soon as they see a weakness in the Republican Party, even if that weakness is something that they stand for, a perceived weakness, right? They felt as though because the Republican Party now opposed putting people on the no-fly list or using the terrorist watch list as a way of gun control, as a means of getting gun control, the Democrats now said, wow, we can champion the terrorist watch list as a means of getting gun control, and not even as a means of getting gun control. Let me correct myself, as a means of opposing the Republican Party. And it's the same exact thing. 2 days, the same exact thing with Donald Trump. Donald Trump has almost no money, cash on hand, but he's still running a nationwide campaign on a shoestring budget, self-funded, with only 4.9% of his money coming from super PACs. And now Democrats are attacking him as being a deadbeat and not able to raise money. I don't think that's something that we should be championing. I think, if anything, we should be questioning how he's using his money. There's a lot of things we should attack with Donald Trump. The fact that he's not raising obscene amounts of dollars from big corporate donors is not one. All right, last caller on this topic. You're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, how you doing, man? It's JP.
JP, how is it going?
Man, listen. Man, I'm well, man. I'm with you. You know, again, but at times I think that you hit the word yesterday. This is more political theatrics. It's all about the optics. It's never about the substance. And they will say anything to keep Trump from winning any point. But in doing so, you lose the whole idea of why Americans hate Congress right now, because they don't get nothing done.
Right.
Sooner or later, somebody has to win in the fight. Some side is going to, and that's what I heard it was about. You win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day. Right. When it comes to running a country, no one is going to get everything that they want. However, just by doing this, they're not looking. This is theatrics. Yep. They're not looking for gun control. They're not trying. They just want to make sure that they let the other side look bad.
Yep.
For that issue. When you're talking about this, Donald Trump is using his own money. It's one of the few things he told the truth about.
That's it. That's about it.
For a minute, Ben. That's about it. He used his own money. That's good. I mean, hey, matter of fact, I'm happy he didn't use obscene amount of money. I'm with you. Because he shouldn't take $1 billion. Do you know what we could do with $1 billion in some of our neighborhoods? For
real, man. For real.
And we're wasting it on TV. Brother, I'm with you. Well done, well said. I'm in agreement. The Democrats have lost their rabbit mind, but I guess that ain't nothing new.
That's definitely nothing new, JP, man. Thanks so much for the call, dude.
Keep it going, my friend.
We'll do. 857-600-0518. There's a lot to attack Donald Trump on. I don't think this is one of them. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about something else. So another thing that I want to talk about is the voter turnout, the youth demographic over for the states that reported, and I'll bring the graphic up on your screen. The states that reported exit polls through June 1st. So it's not all 50 states, but it is about, and this is from the article from the Washington Post, it is about 21 states. And out of those 21 states, those primaries, it shows that Donald Trump actually performed better than Hillary Clinton with the youth vote, with just over 50,000 vote difference. But Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders dwarfed all of them. Both of them combined, right? Combined Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, multiply it by, well, no. Okay, there you go. Just a little bit over twice. Combine the two of them. You know what I'm saying? My words are a little escaping me. So he didn't not combine, but combine them, and he still has more than both of them. That presents a problem. I need to go back and fix my tweet. I think I said the tweet differently. Oh, well. Like I said, my brain is a little fried today. That one that's problematic for this. It's problematic for this election. especially if the Democratic Party goes underneath the assumption that they're just going to get the youth vote and they're just going to get all of the Bernie Sanders supporters votes. You know, I'm quite sure they're going to do fine. I'm sure they're going to get plenty because Donald Trump is still Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is still somebody that most people will vote against no matter how bad the Democrat is, including Hillary Clinton. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though they're not going to get a large chunk, if probably 80% of this vote. But over time, this presents a huge problem, and rightfully so, and I'm glad it does, presents a huge problem for the Democratic Party because the route and the road that they're going down is not one that the future generations are going to just simply acquiesce to. That's why you're getting more and more people who are registered as independents versus Democrats in the first place, because they don't identify, they don't see what they stand for and what they fight for in the Democratic Party. And this is very prevalent amongst the youth voters. And so while this campaign season is almost come and gone, right, this really presents a problem for the DNC in the future, which is why you see the DNC more willing to double down and to exclude as many people as possible so that they can maintain political power and so that they can control the types of voices that have strength and power in their party. This is why the CBC on yesterday, that's why they are fighting so hard to keep primaries closed, because they know a lot of disillusioned young people are going independent. And this is why one of the reasons I say whether you vote Democratic or whether you ever go to a meeting, in my opinion, the best route is to keep your registration with the Democratic Party so that if and when you're ready to vote some of them out, you'll be able to do it in the primary and not be forced to take whoever they just give you in the primary. Because this is, like somebody tweeted out today that it's a private organization and they should be able to do what they want. Okay, fine. However, the demographics are telling them that you're screwed in the long run if you keep going down this same track. We are watching the realignment. And I've said this some months ago, but this is a realignment, man. This is where Democrats, because of their need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be not just different, but to distinguish themselves from their political opponent, they have embraced publicly. I think they've been like this for a while, but now they have publicly embraced right-leaning ideologies, tactics, and practices. And this realignment is happening right before our eyes. This is not the Democratic Party that you remember. This is not the Democratic Party back in the 80s and 70s. Most certainly not the Democratic Party of the 60s. We're dealing with a Democratic Party that's willing to use as many administrative hurdles as possible to keep a certain segment of their voting base from voting. And that's what we saw through this entire primary process. We see hurdle after hurdle being put in front of being able to hear the voices of the community that they ostensibly represent, or that they like to pretend that they represent. But they would never, ever break down the barriers of entry to participate in the political process, particularly in the primaries, if that meant allowing voices that go contrary to the Democratic establishment to get a foothold in their primary system. Never. In other words, they don't want you involved until your choice is Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Because at that point, they can count on you to vote for Hillary Clinton. And I was thinking about it today. I'm like, man, there was a time where the Democratic Party was the party of populism and the populist movement and the voice of the people. More and more and more now, that's no longer the party. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Ben, that's all the more reason for us to have a third party. Yeah, that's fine if there's a fourth party. If there's not a fourth party, then you don't have a third party, right? It's just not going to work out that way. You know, you can have a third party, but it's going to split the vote. You're going to end up with one. You're going to give the victory over to the other party, and then that one party that you split is going to realign itself to co-opt that third party. Fourth parties, possibly. The point is this. The future of the Democratic Party is such that it's either going to break right in front of them. No, I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. It is already broken apart right in front of them. It really has. And we will see exactly how terrifying they can make Donald Trump to see if the youth vote goes towards Hillary Clinton regardless. But looking at the demographics, and I'll pull it back up on your screen because I think it can't be overstated. Look at the number of young people who supported Bernie Sanders over and above Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump combined. And a lot of people are trying to make it seem like Hillary Clinton is the future of the Democratic Party and the Hillary Clinton alliance and coalition is the future of the Democratic Party. No. Bernie Sanders, his coalition and the progressive movement, that is the future of the Democratic Party. That is the future of, let me say that again. That's the future of left-leaning politics in America, whether it's a part of a party or what or not. All right. 857-600-0518. I want to cover a couple of more things here. Speaking of the Democratic Party, so it's come out that the DNC is looking to, or they have approached the producers and the writer of the Broadway musical Hamilton to perform at the DNC in effort to generate excitement and to boost TV viewership for the convention. Clinton seek a rock star. This is in the political. Clinton seek rock star convention lineup. And first of all, we'll talk about Hamilton on another show. We'll break apart all the things that are wrong with Hamilton. But at this point, this is man. They have no idea. They really have no freaking idea how to connect with. I don't want to just use a catchphrase of millennials because it's not just millennials, but it's people who have a vested interest in being our brother's keeper in reality and not just the token version that Barack Obama fed us, right? People are interested in changing this system. People are interested in making this system better for the average American and for the marginalized groups in America. They're not interested in Cory Booker and his legislative aide riding in a car using Snapchat, singing top 40 songs, right? They pass that around as if that was something that young people could attach themselves to. And now they're saying, oh, well, let's go with the musical Hamilton. Hamilton is going to be the way we're going to have a rock star convention and we're going to boost TV ratings. And they absolutely have no clue. They either have no clue or they just care to not pay attention to the reality that young people, millennials, and a lot of other voices, we are interested in changing a broken system. We don't give a damn about what star you put on stage at the convention if what you have at the convention is just a continuation of the very same problems that have been plaguing America for generations. You cannot sugarcoat, you cannot wrap your neoliberal economic policies and your neoconservative foreign policies. You cannot wrap that in pop culture and expect us to be like, oh, that's so cool. Now we like Hillary Clinton. And somehow they actually think that's going to work. It may work on a segment that is paying absolutely no attention, but the problem is the segment that's paying absolutely no attention absolutely would not be drawn in by a Hamilton presentation, right? Can somebody please send a memo to them and help them understand how disconnected from reality they are, because the young voters that they think they can have this rock star lineup and all of a sudden draw people in, if they are not paying political attention, then they already think you're lame and they already were not going to watch and they already are going to be turned off by this musical, right? That's number one. Number two, for those who are paying attention, we are not interested in it because we're looking for something so much more than you're ever willing to give. We're looking for fundamental changes to a broken system, economically, foreign policy wise, all the above. It reminds me of these churches who think that the way that they can draw more people into their church is by having Christian rap, gospel rap, or if you go to you go to a predominantly white church, they want to have Christian metal, right? Christian rock bands. And while everyone in the audience is sitting back like, what the hell is this? And why did you bring this lameness into what we're really looking for is how we can change the world. Instead, you're trying to give us the same old garbage wrapped up in pop culture. It doesn't work like that. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Is that me, sweetie?
That's you, sweetie. What's on your mind?
How you doing? I'm Virginia over in Bainbridge Island by Seattle.
Hey,
DQ. You're just one of the most intelligent places I can go to relieve my poor frazzled mind. I couldn't believe the mess that just went on in New York State Convention. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
Where I was supposed to be going to a meeting tonight for our LD, and honey, I honestly cannot justify. There's a million other things we always have to do, for family, for self-preservation, and, whatever. And go into a place where it's condescending.
Yep.
It's marginalizing. They took your membership dues, but they really like you to, STFU.
Yeah.
And I cannot justify. I think that strategically, it's in our red and blue states, we don't really work to make a viable third left progressive party. We're just going to be forever screwed. Nothing changes because, the easiest thing is for nothing to change, for things to just kind of lay there.
Yep.
And Matt Taibbi, he came out with an article on the Rolling Stone. I like the way the dude writes. And, and it's just reality that they are doing exactly what you're saying, going to the lowest common denominator, using the most lazy tactics because they really want to go away. And that's just reality. When are we going to do something with that reality? Do we ever have another chance with so many people mobilized to be able, because I saw a critique too of the People's Summit where they didn't allow Jill Stein to speak and didn't really, in any organized way talk about forming a third party. And it just missed opportunities, man, because, the folks that are there for the party are always there, co-opting every dang thing you do. That's how Netroots went, and, it's become a Dem Party thing. And
well, that's one thing they'll do.
We just have to.
Go ahead.
We have to do something. Because here in Seattle, if we hadn't had that gal, and I'm not a Trotskyite by no means, but if we hadn't had Shama Sawant in the Socialist Alternative in the city council in Seattle, it was all Democratic. And we could not get a $15 minimum wage passed until she got in. And then she threatened them. And right now she's working on affordable housing and making all of them have to come up with something.
Yeah.
Because they look like dogs. It's like we're a totally blue place. So like the strategy is supposed to be that, a place that's red or blue and ain't a dang thing you do, 5% ain't going to change it. Go green or because until they see a real serious challenge, come on now, why would they take us seriously? Because we pouting, because we mad, because we refuse to pay their $50 a month of membership. That's not what they care about. They only care about the millions of dollars. Well, you got a multi-billion-dollar foundation in the Clinton Foundation. So what you think they care about other that?
Absolutely. All they really care about is that money. Listen, you said a mouthful. Let me reply to some of that. So back to the top of what you said, like with the Green Party, and actually not even the Green Party, with Jill Stein, just to be sure, the People's Summit, and this is from people who are organizing it. They organized that for months, and without Jill Stein, if I'm not mistaken, Jill Stein had not approached them until the last second, to the day of, to become a speaker there, right there. So there is that's something more. And I don't know. I don't know whether or not they should have just allowed her to speak without having anything set up prior to. So we'll have to, speak to the team that actually built that out. But the sentiment of what you're saying in terms of when are we going to do something more, right? I don't mind speaking to that in between these two topics here, because I want to go to something else. I do want to speak to that because I honestly believe that we put too much fictional hope into the Green Party. And the reason I say that is not because, well, two reasons. One, because of Diverger's law. We are in the representative democracy, the system that we have, we are very not likely. We are almost impossible. It's going to be impossible for us to have a three-party system, right? We could have a four-party system if we had a fourth party to break away from the Republican Party as well. But a three-party system or an attempt for a third party always consolidates back to two parties. And I think sometimes we put this fictional hope in the Green Party as though they are the saviors of the left movement. In reality, the Green Party is a political party just like the rest. They just have more left-leaning policies. But whenever you have a political organization, you have politics at play. You have political manipulations at play. You have people who are going to try to control their power structure at play. And I don't think that we should sit back as progressives and put our hope in the Green Party. I think what we do instead is to be free agents. To be free agents who have voices that move as a block. If we as progressives create a progressive community that can choose to vote with the Greens if we choose to vote with the Democrats if we choose to vote for a Republican candidate who is extremely progressive if we choose to. But if we lock ourselves into everybody who's on the left, let's all go and support the Green Party. Well, great, you get rid of the Democratic Party, but eventually the same problems will start to foment to the top of the Green Party. Right. And I think if we sit around putting this hope we're putting our hope into other systems instead of putting our hope in ourselves. And I'm not saying that as a fanciful flight of fantasy. I'm saying that as something very, very real. There is power in being able to have a collective movement that's not attached to a political party, because then we can demand all the political. Think about it this way. Stephen A. Smith, ESPN, don't like him. Bit of a clown. But he made one point that I think is salient. He said, imagine if the black voting bloc, that's kind of day, folks. Imagine if the black voting bloc did not just simply fall at the feet of the Democratic Party, but instead held the Democratic Party accountable by being willing to vote with the Republican Party. Well, then the black voting bloc could get whatever they wanted because they could demand it out of either party. But so long as your voting bloc rests comfortably inside of a political party, even the Green Party, so long as your political voting bloc rests easily there, then that party has the ability to take advantage of you, which is why I like what Bernie Sanders is trying to get us to do, which is to be a free moral agent, free agent to move, to go wherever we please, depending on who's going to serve the best interests of progressive ideologies and movements. Period. So I don't want us to, you can do what you want to do. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. But for me, I'm not putting my hope in the Green Party any more than I'm putting my hope in the Democratic Party. What I'm putting my hope in is a community of progressive voices who want to see America be better for the average American, who are not concerned, who are not afraid of paying a few extra tax dollars for the hopes of bringing up and being their brother's keeper and making a better society. My hope is in building that community so that that community can realize the strength of their voices, the strength of their money, the strength of their small dollars, and put that strength wherever the progressive candidate may be, whether they're in the Green Party, whether they're in the Democratic Party, or whether they're in the Republican Party. Because in history, not all Democrats have been progressive and not all Republicans have been conservative. All right, 857-600-0518. There's a couple other stories that I want to get to. Guccifer strikes again. And there an additional release of articles that were released this morning at 10 a.m. And again, the person, I would say one of the main leading voices who is staying on top of this is Jordan Chariton from the Young Turks. So be sure to check out his political reporting. But he has once again contacted the DNC to see if the most recent releases are authentic. And again, he has had no response from the DNC. Also, a member of the Progressive Army, Salam Marcos. You want to check out his article at progressivearmy.com. He did an article on the information that was released as well. And so in some of these releases, the DNC, a couple of the things that stood out. One, has been this assertion by Hillary Clinton and Team Hillary Clinton that the six-figure speaker honorarium or fee was something that was simply offered to Hillary Clinton. Based on some of the documents that have been released, it wasn't offered to Hillary Clinton. It's what Hillary Clinton requested. And there's some documents there in where she outlined her fee and travel expenses. And this is part of the release that came out from Guccifer today. So it is once again another layer of not just dishonesty, but the sleight of hand, as if we didn't know any better, as if we didn't fully understand how this really works. And now the documents are coming out showing that that this is, in fact, what we thought all along, that Hillary Clinton was demanding these fees and not just being simply offered. So this unpacks the other question in terms of her assertion that this was simply what people were giving her because they valued what she had to say so much. And so because they valued what she had to say so much, they were not going to ask for anything in return. They just wanted to hear from Hillary Clinton. And now we see that that's not really the case. Hillary Clinton is saying, this is what my speaking fee is. These are what my travel expenses will be. This is what you need to pay for me to come speak. And so now the question comes back on the table. What was said in these speeches? Because you cannot tell me that you demand a six-figure salary for, salary implies work. You require a six-figure speaking fee, and the people who are paying you are not getting anything in return. I think it's all of the more reason for us to know what she said. And there were other documents in there about opposition research. There was also a document in there that this is actually back to the 2.0 release, not the release from today, but in the 2.0 release, there was a document that that outlined how Team Hillary Clinton was going to circumvent campaign finance laws in order to maximize the donations from big donors. In that particular memo, it was a memo outlined by her lead attorney that basically gave guidelines to all of her staff members of what they could and could not say and how they can say it in a way that would encourage more money from the donor than they were allowed to ask. So I guess, and you have to read the article over at The Intercept. I didn't really want to put it on the screen too much, but go over to The Intercept and read the article about the pesky campaign finance rules, and then really outline the fact that their language as a staffer for Hillary Clinton, the language that you could speak according to the law, really limited what you can say, what you can solicit, and for whom you could solicit it. But they crafted a memo of all the guidelines that they could use to circumvent those laws and help them to maximize their campaign contributions. Now, I don't want to go into the particulars of it because as I read it, the more I realized this is really just a playbook to help them to not break the law, but still get everything they can by pushing the envelope of the law. And in theory, there's nothing wrong with that. But in principle and in reality, you can't tell us in one breath that you are concerned about reforming campaign finance and getting big money out of politics. And then on the other hand, you're doing everything you possibly can to get every dime out of a system that you call broken, instead of setting a standard and say, because here's the excuse, right? The excuse has been, well, we need to raise all this money because the Republicans are going to raise all that money. Well, joke's on us because Donald Trump is not raising all that money. Now, what's your excuse for going out here and bending and stretching and pushing the envelope on every campaign finance law that you had previously said was egregious and something we need to get rid of, but we have to do it because the Republicans are going to raise this kind of money? What's the excuse now? Or is this something that you're going to continue? Because now this kind of blows a hole in that entire theory. Because if Donald Trump is poor Donald and Donald Trump doesn't have the capacity to raise all of this money, what is Hillary Clinton's excuse for going out here and circulating memos to her staffers to show them how they can go and press the envelope and go as far as the law without breaking the law, so that they can raise as much money as humanly possible? Because you can't say the Republicans are doing it now, because their candidate is clearly not doing it. Their candidate, the Republican candidate, is clearly not pushing the envelope using the rules. He probably doesn't even know the rules. He probably doesn't even have a team that's analyzing it and creating these memos. So they're not doing it. What is the Democratic side problem now? And instead of saying, because this is wishful thinking, right? This is everything I'm saying right now is just purely idealistic wishful thinking. Instead of saying, well, Donald Trump is not raising this kind of money, and so this is an opportunity as Democrats and progressives and liberals to say, well, this may be an opportunity for us to push back on how much money we have to raise from super PACs and from big donors, because the Republicans are so incompetent right now that they can't even do it because they have an imbecile at the top of their ticket. Maybe we could use this as an opportunity for us to roll this back. Completely hogwash, fanciful, idealistic dreaming. It would never happen. You know why? Because they want to continue to pay each other those huge, ridiculous, obscene salaries and consulting fees. So even though they have an opportunity, because the incompetence of Donald Trump, to not have to raise hundreds of millions of dollars from super PACs and pressing the envelopes and pressing the envelope rather, and using and further using a system that they claim they believe is broken, instead of using this as an opportunity, I guarantee you they're going to keep going headlong into this without even a second thought's notice. You know why? Because I don't believe they're interested in changing the system. Not the campaign finance system, because people have got to get paid. All right. Couple things. Station identification break. Thank you for tuning in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Go ahead and click the subscribe button. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Be sure to follow us on Spreaker, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you can find it. We thank you for joining us. We have almost 11,000 followers now on our internet radio show. We're pressing almost 11,000 on YouTube. We're pressing almost 17,000 on Twitter. So thank you all for your help and your support. We couldn't do it without you. Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show and consider becoming a patron. I want to thank Anoa Changa for hosting earlier tonight on The Way with Anoa Changa. She did a great summary of the People's Summit and discussed Jill Stein and a whole bunch of other things. So be sure to check out the replay of her show and all the individual clips. On Thursday night, Project Sanity with Ms. Pedersen and Richard Green. Want to make sure that you're here for that. A lot more to cover, and I'm wondering if I'm going to have time to cover it. Very possibly not. Yeah, I think I'm going to. Oh, you know what? I think I will be speaking. I'm going to speak out and reach to Nomiki Consta about what happened in New York today. I did see the video. the video of basically I'm going to speak to her, and I'm going to see if I can get her on the show to come on the show to discuss what happened and the implications of all that what happened. But if I want you to go to her Twitter timeline and go to her Facebook page, and I want you to watch political parties in particular. I want you to watch political parties in action. When they have set their mind on doing something, they have the ability to railroad whatever it is that they want right through the system. They do. And you can see this, and despite all of the people in the audience in New York and the New York delegation calling for a motion on the floor, you had 20, maybe 30 people shouting about making a motion. You had the chair person completely ignore the voice of the people. This is what happens in organized structures. This is not just something that happens in the Republican Party. This happens in the Democratic Party, and I guarantee you it happens in the Green Party. And I think what we have to realize is it is political structures themselves. We can't be concerned with controlling political structures except for controlling them and holding them by the stranglehold of our voting power and our ability to move and leverage our voting blocks like we don't do right now. I think that's our weakness, is that we put and depend on a political party to provide leadership for us. And I think it's time for that to be over with. And I think something that that Bernie Sanders has done has galvanized millions of people, and it's going to be up to us to make sure that we mobilize them and keep them mobilized and keep them organized, not to service any political party, but to service an agenda and see which political organization, political party is going to acquiesce to our political demands, because we have hundreds of thousands and millions of people behind what we're standing for and what we're fighting for. That's the only thing they're going to respond to. Otherwise, your own party, people shouldn't even have political parties, but your own party will marginalize you because they can guarantee that they have your vote, whether or not they ever listen to what you're fighting for. All right, we're going to take one more caller, then we're out of here. 857-600-0518. Caller, and actually, I'm sorry, I have a couple more things I have to cover. But caller, you're on the air. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Hey, Ben, this is Bryce. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Bryce? Thanks for the call, man. What's on your mind?
I just tuned in because I just got off from work. What was that Westboro thing we were talking about?
Oh yeah, actually, I haven't talked about it yet. That's exactly what I forgot to talk about. What's up?
Well, I think I know what it is. Yeah, that's a problem right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a problem right there. I'll let you talk about it though.
Okay.
Well, I didn't check your topics because I just got off of work though. But I'll tune in. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Thanks for that. It was perfect timing. It was quite apropos. All right, last thing. I mentioned yesterday that the Westboro Baptist Church, the church that likes to go and protest funerals of people who have been killed, they showed up in Orlando to quote unquote protest. In my opinion, it's just harassment. The funeral of one of the people killed in the post-Orlando shooting. And everyone knows them. They like to go with their signs that said, God hates sodomites, God hates fags, God hates, the most offensive things they could possibly think of. And so they showed up in Orlando. To their surprise, there was some angels. Angels who showed up to, and here's a tweet. This is from, the tweet is from Sarah Clapp, showing how this was done. You had several volunteers from a local theater, local Shakespeare theater, who showed up to counter protest and to cover up the signs of all of the this particular picture is from a similar type of protest in Arizona in 2011, but they showed up to make sure that the people who were going to the funeral did not have to see the signs, the offensive signs from Westboro Baptist Church. And this is, you can see the warehouse where volunteers stitched together and built angel wings to cover up the offensive signs from Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, this is the world we live in. We live in a world where you have religious fundamentalists who are out doing the most offensive, harmful, and demeaning and hurtful, spiteful, evil thing. And you have people who may or may not be religious. They very well could be atheists. They could all be Christian, as far as I know. Hell, some of them might be Muslim. It doesn't matter. But you have another group of people who are having to come and serve as the better angel, right? They're having to serve as the better human to cover up and to protect people who are mourning from evil, vindictive, bitter, cantankerous dredges of society who think they're doing something in God's name. So this was just like a highlight. This was a very high point for me to see that you had people who quite literally came in as angels to protect mourning people, the LGBTQ community, from hateful, bitter, evil, spiteful religious church people. That goes to show you, very simply, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it because I'm kind of spent on it. That just goes to show you that something that we all knew, very common sense. So, right, if you have any common sense, you know this, that not everybody who is good goes to church, and not everybody that is bad stays away from church. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.